I'm Theo.
And I'm Juliette.
And this is Apologies Accepted.
We offer an entertaining look at some of the big issues in history by examining public apologies of the famous and infamous.
We're looking at politicians, serial killers, actors, and you.
Send us a public apology you would like to make, and we'll read it on the air and give you a chance to redeem yourself, or just get some guilt off your shoulders.
We're here for you. Once a week, maybe more if you're really, really sorry. Okay,
all right.
We're talking.
So now I have nothing to say.
I have nothing to say.
I was up all night watching the Clinton affair. I think it's A&E, and they didn't ever really say much about the apology. So I was like, why did I waste 5 hours of my life watching this?
Well, so here's why, right? I watched something as well. I watched the ABC Bill and Monica. It might have been Monica and Bill, actually. They might have shamed her first and then Bill. Truth and Lies, which was horribly done. It was very much a true Hollywood story type format. Salacious, all these cuts between people who were experts or were in the room at the time, so to speak. And it was just all about the sex, right? And having lived through it, not that I was with Bill and Monica lived through it, but having lived through all the press fallout, right?
Poor Monica, she was so upset.
Hey, competition's tough, and I'm just going to say, sorry, Monica. But, a couple of things. One, it was a great reminder. It was a great refresher for what that period of time was like, first of all. Can you imagine what it would be like today if a sex scandal, let's say our president slept with a porn star while his pregnant wife or his newly born child, right? Like, he'd be thrown out of the White House and crosses would be burned on the lawn. Right. And so watching all of this, it's like, oh my God, it's so innocent.
I know.
But then you get into Clinton did lie, and he did kind of softly press Monica to lie, and she did try and protect him, and she did lie under oath in a civil trial. And so it was great to have all of these little details, because it does put what happened to her into a real perspective for me, right? With 21st century eyes. In the 20th century, I was really angry at Bill Clinton for getting on TV and lying to me personally, me.
Yeah,
right?
whatever your name is.
Sorry, I promise I'm not going to talk nonstop, but maybe I will.
Go ahead.
Find out. And I remember that day when I was home, not at work, and turned on the TV set, it was CNN, and the President of the United States was making a speech, and maybe I even knew through the news that he was going to be addressing the nation at this time or something, right? But turned on the TV, and he stood there and he said, "I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky." And I honestly was like, great, done. You didn't do it? Fine. And then, later he says that he did, and I was really mad because he had betrayed my trust, right? And I was one of those people that walked around defending Bill Clinton at the time. He was a great president. He aligned with all of my policies. He was I think this is true, certainly heard it at the time, he was the first president to ever personally address an LGBT organization. At the time, we didn't have Q, right? So he went to an HRC dinner or something, and it was videotaped, and he spoke, and that videotape went around certain circles, certain gay circles, certain gay activist circles, right? And it was very much hey, Bill Clinton is on our side. I've got this videotape of him addressing HRC at a Washington gala. Watch it, right? And I don't remember what he said. I just remember being drunk in the room. And yeah, okay, my president. I liked Hillary, all of that stuff. And so when the Monica thing happened, it was very much turned from anger at Bill Clinton to anger towards Republicans. And I don't think that's ever faded. What are your memories of that specific moment in time?
I always hated Bill Clinton, and I felt bad about it because he stood for so many things that I liked, but I thought he was creepy and smarmy and smirky and somebody who always got what he wanted and had everything else handed to him. So people thought he was so good looking and funny and charming, and I just thought he was the biggest asshole ever. So it was no surprise to me that he had an affair with anyone, and I believed it the whole time. I knew he had done it. I just knew he had done it because there had been other accusations before, and I believed those too. Just because I thought he was such a jerk, but like I said, I always felt bad about that because he did great things for women. Like he appointed Janet Reno and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and he gave Hillary that job leading healthcare, which Hillary is a whole other story. I mean, she's another one that I don't like but feel bad about not liking.
Oh, this is weird. We've never talked about this
weird.
Because I love Hillary.
Do you?
How did we talk about it at the time?
I don't know. I think at the time.
I'm surprised you didn't like Bill.
I think you were a little more Republican at the time.
I might have been. I mean, or I might have been dating a few Republicans at the time.
Maybe.
That's probably more what it was.
I think
yeah,
I
don't think
remember
was really
years
political.
where I didn't want to talk to you about politics at all because you were more Republican, and I didn't want to get into any arguments about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Hey, I'm like, wow. Well, you'll be happy to know that.
Yeah, you seem to have improved.
Totally
with age.
Antifa. Yes.
I mean, can you believe that we were actually, I don't know how old I was when this happened, but in 30, I was close to 30.
I was going to tell you it starts with a 3 at least. I don't like to think about that.
But I remember listening to the Linda Tripp tapes. I was in San Francisco, and I must have been here for about a year at least because I was living on Page Street. And I was in my little apartment, my one-bedroom apartment, listening to 20 hours of Linda Tripp tapes practically from start to finish. I was riveted. But I thought, I didn't like any of them. This is one situation in which I don't like any of the characters. I feel bad now for Monica, now that I've seen her later and she's grown up and she's a little bit more conscious of what happened to her. She
now.
is. But at the time, I thought, this poor girl. She's just an idiot. She's done this thing, and she has no idea what she's done. She has, no capacity to understand what. And she said at the time that it was consensual. And for anybody to think that a relationship of the president of the United States with a 22-year-old intern was consensual was just unbelievable to me. So I guess I have to say at this point that I'm a radical feminist, and I've always been one. And that's the perspective through which I look at this.
And so help me with this, okay? Let's assume that somebody has tripped over this podcast and does not know what a radical feminist is, right? I think everybody's sort of got their own vision of what a feminist is. But so what is a radical feminist? So
the word radical really doesn't mean out there and nutty, whatever. It means to the root or of the root. And what radical feminists believe is that the oppression of women is at the root of all oppressions. So that's a little hard for me to explain, but it's
interesting.
Yeah, it's sort of the primary oppression that all women are oppressed everywhere.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't argue with that.
Right.
Because you would beat me up if I did. But where did this? Sorry, I'm learning all of the tools.
Yeah. No, we have plenty of time to do that. So take your time. We can cut out anything we need to.
The 21st century.
It's crazy, huh?
And also, this doesn't have to be the final.
No,
I mean, everything
I doubt
do
that it will
has to be perfect
so,
and ready.
Yeah, we'll probably have several Bill Clinton episodes.
Oh my God, we're going to be such experts by the time we are ready to roll.
I get to
with
watch
that.
more TV.
Okay, so all right. So as a radical feminist, then would you say that the the fault lies entirely with Bill Clinton, or would you say that there's sort of a ownership of um, actions, I suppose, by both parties?
So,
Does Monica
yeah.
bear anything in this?
Well, so what I think is, I think your ability to make a free choice is constrained by your ability to understand the choice that you're making and its ramifications. And Monica Lewinsky at 22 was unable to understand the ramifications of the choice she was making, whereas Bill Clinton at 49 and the leader of the free world was in a much better position to understand those things. So I'm not saying that, that Monica did the right thing by having an affair with a married man. Everybody knows that's wrong, right? And Monica knew that it was wrong. But the
Right.
responsibility was really 98% on Bill Clinton.
Oh, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and it doesn't even need to be the president of the United States.
Right.
But I mean, arguably, there's always going to be a power imbalance when you are having an affair with the president of any country, and you're not the president
Right.
of that
Sure.
country, too,
Sure.
or another country. Right. But 100%. I mean, the guy was just completely wrong and stupid and entitled to
Mm-hmm.
his libido,
Right. Exactly.
right? Um, what
He
I
apparently
guess
has
there's no
never
need to
turned
really
down
go
a
down that
woman.
path.
So I think all the women he's had affairs with, I bet they're in the hundreds.
I once met a woman who was a Republican at a work convention,
Mm-hmm.
right? Our trade show booths were side by side, and um, the show was like a 5 day long show. It was a big show for my industry, all
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff, and so we spent a lot of time hanging out next to each other, and we were from neighboring cities and in the same industry. We knew each other. We had kind of the same position, and eventually into the show, she got into politics, and I don't remember why, but she was talking about Bill Clinton, and that she despised him, but she'd met him in person, and she said, he's the only guy I've ever met that I absolutely wanted to, and I
Really?
forget exactly how she phrased it, right? But her point was, because what I was going to say was, she said he's the only guy I've ever met that I wanted to fuck right away.
Yeah.
But I can't believe that somebody would just actively say that out loud. So my brain is backfilling
Yeah.
and paraphrasing. Um,
I
so
hear that all the
so he did
time.
have some sort of charisma.
Yeah, apparently he has amazing personal charisma. I don't see it on TV personally. I don't get it, but maybe if I met him in person, I'd be, swept away.
You'd be throwing that radical feminist
That's
hat
right.
off.
I was wrong. Bill, take me.
Help me understand. Um, yeah, okay. So it was a more innocent time, and people were a lot more conservative than they are today. Case in point, um, and and yet we still have this thing of this lie, right? Of this lying under oath, um, and of course that's wrong. But it's also one of those lies that's easily understandable and easily forgivable, right? Of course, you're going to lie about having an affair with a married man. Who would own up to that publicly? Really, if you thought you could get away with saying no, I would say no. I probably have said no.
I've had an
Um,
affair with a married man.
and did you deny it?
No.
Well, you're a radical feminist.
Well, I can understand why Bill Clinton in his position would deny it, but I think that you have to separate the person from the position. And they were going after Bill Clinton, the president, not Bill Clinton, the human being. And the Republicans were definitely
That,
going after Bill Clinton. There is no question about that. I think back then, maybe some people thought it was a little bit paranoid to think there was a vast right wing conspiracy, like Hillary said. But I think there was one. There absolutely was one. And looking at it from the 21st century perspective, where everything is a vast right wing conspiracy, we can see that it was in fact the case.
oh, 100%. It was totally the start of that. And what I liked from my documentary last night, as bad as it was, there was still kind of this linear review of history. What event led to what, that eventually brought us the knowledge of President Clinton's affair. And it connected some dots for me, right? Like, the Clinton thing was very much a reaction to Watergate. And it was driven really hard by Republicans because the Republican president, once upon a time, what was it, 30 years ago, 20 years ago?
Like 50.
Had betrayed the trust of the American public.
Yes.
16. So not even that long ago, considering the eras, right? The 80s from the 60s. So the Republicans had been in power, but the Republicans had also borne a lot of public shame. The Republican president lied to the American people. Oh, the Republican, and in the 60s, it was even more conservative and more stars and stripes forever than it was in the 80s. And so when they had the chance to really kind of spin that narrative around, and look, the Democrats are also horrible. Look how even worse they are, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about politics, which, I suppose arguably you could say Watergate was all about just politics. There wasn't anything personal in it, right? The Republican Party added this layer of personal to it, right? And maybe it's because it was there and available to them, who knows? But so given the sensitivities around political intrigue, I found it really interesting that Bill Clinton is the person who said, yeah, let's appoint a independent independent prosecutor to look at Whitewater. And it was that Whitewater review that led to tripping over the Monica Lewinsky stuff, right? And with Kenneth Starr asking for more power and being given more power, right, being legally permitted to review more and more stuff, which is how Kenneth Starr ended up getting into the president's personal life. And so like that for me really helped connect some dots I probably didn't see at the time and or wouldn't have cared or wouldn't have understood. And then, of course, we have the whole Monica fallout, which at the time I felt sorry for her. I could totally see me in that position. I 100% would do the same thing, right? And sort of her incentive for doing it is understandable. Yeah. He was attractive. He was powerful. Right. It's a power move if you can get a powerful person interested in you. But then in listening to some of the Linda Tripp tapes, which I don't think I really listened to in the 80s. I know I didn't listen to all of them. You didn't miss much,
I tell you. They're very gossipy.
Oh.
Not in a good way.
Floored. Oh, yeah, no. But I honestly, I was floored at the level of hysteria I heard in Monica's voice about Bill's not calling me back. Yeah. Bill doesn't like me anymore, right? And we've all been that every 20-year-old out there, you are going to fall in love with somebody who's not going to love you back, and it is going to ruin your life for 5 years.
Oh, if not longer, for sure.
Maybe your whole life forever.
It's not going to be fun.
No, but and you'll never get an apology from that person.
You'll never get an apology from that person. Never. No. Oh, man, poor Monica. She really was hysterical.
Poor me. But yeah, so she was hysterical, and I think that was a thread that I missed at the time. Was I felt sorry for her, but in my world, in my brain, I sort of just made it as I'd been with, guys who were 20 years older than I was, who who showed me a slice of life I wasn't open to just me, right? So they had some level of power or whatever, and that was fun and interesting. But it was fun. It wasn't like, oh my god, I'm so in love. 'Cause I only like the guys that would get drunk and punch me.
Whoa.
I guess not that a rich guy couldn't do that. No, of course I'm totally kidding about that. Not the drunk part. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, it was very easy to wear Monica's shoes and kind of walk in them. But what I was missing was she was really in love with
She
him,
was.
or felt
I
that
think,
she was
yeah.
really in love.
And I wondered watching the Clinton affair if he might not have been in love with her too. And I think I don't like him. I don't think what he did was okay. But I think there was some real affection there anyway. I mean, he treated her really poorly. He called her up whenever he was horny in 2:30 in the morning for phone sex, and never, any other time. And I don't know if they ever called, and if they ever just. She said they did have just regular conversations a lot, and it wasn't always about sex. And I hope that's true for her sake. But I don't know. Sometimes I wonder now if maybe he felt something for her, and I hope that he did for her.
Well, it was interesting and I think it's interesting to everybody who has clued into this point, that he gave her a copy of Leaves of Grass,
Right.
and it was the same version that he gave to Hillary Clinton
Right.
when he was dating her.
Which is like
right?
cringe.
And I didn't hear Jennifer Flowers or Paula Jones, who lived in Long Beach, by the way, my adopted hometown. And I didn't ever hear either of them or any other woman
Right.
say that Bill Clinton had given her a gift, right? And Jennifer Flowers claimed a 12-year-long affair.
That's true.
And
No Leaves
the
of
book
Grass.
never came out. Right. And so you would think that if he had given somebody else a copy of Leaves of Grass, that I'd be pulling it off on my shelf if Bill Clinton had given me a copy and going to the press. 100%. So
maybe they did have an emotional relationship of some sort, as stunted as Bill Clinton is able to have.
Exactly. As much as he can feel that sort of feeling, because he is totally. And, hey, I am a Clinton fan, right? Given the alternatives,
Sure.
Right. If it was Clinton or the Bushes...
I mean, there's no question. I voted for Bill Clinton.
Yeah. I forget where I was going because I started thinking about the current president.
We were talking about Leaves of Grass,
but
I don't know what that was. It doesn't matter.
I don't either. I'll remember at 3 o'clock.
We're talking about the Republicans being out for him and not, I don't know, whether Monica was in love with him and he was in love with her. You remember?
Bang.
Okay.
Totally remember. So I am a Clinton fan.
Yeah.
So when I say this, I say it as a fanboy. Okay? He's a sociopath. He is 100% a sociopath. And my clue is that every person that he talks to says, oh, it feels like he was only talking to me.
Yeah.
It felt like he really understood my issues. And they feel this deep personal connection with him that's, I don't know how reciprocated it is, but it just can't be.
No, you can't have a deep personal connection with everyone you meet. It just doesn't happen.
Oh, and is it sociopath or a psychopath?
I think they're basically the same.
I guess. So I know that every CEO is some sort of a sociopath. Yeah, or psychopath. Okay, have you ever taken the psychopath? Oh, of course you have, because you listen to MFM, so you've heard this, the psychopath test. That was going to be my big surprise for you.
I'm not at all a psychopath.
Can you believe that question?
By the way, I don't know about you, but I'm not.
I try not to be, but it's hard. It's real hard. Okay, so let's see. So, yeah, I mean, one, in this whole incident, I was going to say affair, but yeah, I think also it's an affair, it's not an affair, right? Because with an affair, I think hearts and flowers and weekends away and cottages and stuff like that.
Right.
There are a lot of people to blame. Nobody's on their best behavior. No, and everybody's being human. So okay, and I totally derailed my whole plan. I was going to start off with like, what is an apology?
Oh,
What do we look for? Not so much like a 5-minute dissertation on where does the word apology come from. It's 30 seconds
that's a good
of a
idea.
review. But
Go for it.
yeah, okay, cool. All right, so apology, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, is a regretful acknowledgement of an offense or failure. And the origin comes from mid-16th century, and it's denoting a formal defense against an accusation, right? So it has maybe a little bit more of a legal sensibility to it in the 1500s. It comes from the French apology, violate Latin and Greek, apologia, a speech in one's own defense. So apology, once upon a time, was something that maybe you offered in courts, right? I didn't review it much further than that. So let's see. And then in an apology, like, we've all given one, we've all received one, we've all accepted one, we've all pretended to accept one, right? I mean, there's so many layers of things that happen within an apology. But, essentially, who's making the apology? What is their motivation? What's the function of their apology? Is it to make somebody else feel better? Does it make themselves feel better, right? What is the result of their apology? What does it do? Which is sort of buried under function. And then ultimately, do they do it again? And I think that's how you kind of judge, was the apology sincere, or was it a social maneuver to kind of grease the wheels for everybody at that time? And in looking at Bill Clinton's apology,
well, which apology?
Well, right, and so we need a timeline, right, and maybe backing it up for, again, the 13-year-old who is going to be our biggest fan listening to this, who knows nothing, has never heard of these people, doesn't know when 1980 was, doesn't care. So just kind of like a straight bullet point, what happened when, right? Okay, so in June of 1995, Monica Lewinsky is 21 years old, and she goes to the White House as an intern. Her affair begins 5 months later, in November of 95. There had been a government shutdown. The interns were kind of the free labor for the government at the time. And so it's been proposed that if it hadn't been for the government shutdown, Monica Lewinsky never would have come into the orbit of Bill Clinton. Would never have gone into the same room with him. Right?
So it's all the Republicans' fault when you look at it, because they're the cause of the government shutdown.
120%. And also, we can blame pizza.
Yes.
Right? Yes, because I'm sure there was a pizza gate too that rings a bell with me. Oh, I'm thinking of Comet Pizza as Pizzagate. But I mean, either way, pizza is to blame for many faults, right? Or many things. Okay, so then in 96, so in 96, so it has a affair in November. In April of 96, Monica Lewinsky is removed from the White House. And this is a quote from CNN. The Deputy White House Chief of Staff, Evelyn Lieberman, transfers Lewinsky to a job as an assistant to Pentagon spokesman Kevin Bacon, and Lieberman told the New York Times the move was due to inappropriate and immature behavior and inattention to work. Can you believe that somebody is going to publicly state in the New York Times
so rude
that your job performance is poor?
Yes.
Right? So it's already Monica's fault.
Why did Monica not sue her for saying that?
She was 21, 22.
That's right. She didn't know
her parents were well connected. And kind of behind the scenes at this point, like the public doesn't know that anything's happened, but maybe there's a little bit of rumor flying around in D.C.
Yeah.
But the movers and shakers know that some things happen.
Right.
Because why pay attention to an intern
Right.
at all? Why do you publicly comment on the move of an intern? Let's see. So it's at the Pentagon that Lewinsky meets Linda Tripp, who's just this career government worker who also was moved from the White House to the Pentagon kind of against her own will, right? And Linda Tripp wanted back into the White House, and Linda Tripp wanted Bush back into the White House, and Linda Tripp wanted Republicans back into the White House. So Linda Tripp and Monica Lewinsky become friends during this era of 96, and then from 96 to 98, they have their conversations, and it's in 98 when Linda Tripp sort of unknowingly hi, I actually only speak English, and I'm not sure of the transitional word to use there, but without Monica's knowledge, behind Monica's back, starts laying a trap, air quotes around, well, it was a trap for Monica Lewinsky, right? Because Linda Tripp's big objective is she's going to bring down Bill Clinton, this horrible person that she doesn't like, right? Representative of a party she doesn't like and values she doesn't like. So Linda Tripp is going to save America from the guy who can't keep his dick in his pants. I mean, I guess it's a podcast, I can say that.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
I don't think we're going to be a G-rated podcast.
Probably not. I could try. It's funny how much like this feels like work.
Get your work face on.
Yeah. And my work clothes.
Oh, right.
This is
awesome.
what I would wear to work. Okay, so in 98, the Republicans have tripped over Monica Lewinsky, and they subpoena her. They're going to collect an affidavit from her.
And that's as part of the Paula Jones lawsuit.
Paula Jones.
Right, exactly. So, and Paula Jones, of course, accused Clinton of sexual harassment in 1994.
Oh, and he became president when? Was it 92?
93. Yeah. 93 to 2001.
93. Of course I get it right. God, that seems like such a long time.
Doesn't it? It was.
It does.
2 terms.
Not even a long time ago, but like a long time. Yeah, how glory days. Okay, let's see. And so then, I think this bit of the story is kind of crucial to understanding what happens, but it's also really boring because it's like Linda Tripp sets up Monica Lewinsky, and then she's recording her, and then Linda Tripp is shopping around a book deal in New York with conservative publishing houses, and this thing is getting bigger and more out of control. And Monica Lewinsky is still just being 23, 24, walking along.
No idea.
Right? Kind of pressing her ex-boyfriend, ex-friend to help her get like a really cushy job that's going to pay a lot of money, right? And I mean, maybe by the old standards of how things were done, she totally deserved 100%. And so
I don't know. I don't think I would have done what she did. Yeah. And she wrote him that letter that said, "Dear sir, please get me this job that you promised me, or I'm going to have to tell my parents why I'm not in the White House anymore." And that was, of course, he went ballistic, and I would have too. But I would never have said that to anyone I was having an affair with, because I think I would be more like, why would I want to take anything from this asshole who's being such a jerk to me? But that's just me.
So let's but let's look at that, right? And it's not to like defend her actions, because I agree. Like, I've never done anything like that. When you're done, you're done.
Yeah.
And whether you're done with me,
right,
or I'm done with you.
If someone's done, it's over. Done. Yeah.
No more. Can you do me a favor, though? Okay, so neither of us would have pressed things that far, but I can actually imagine a scenario where I might have. And that's when you're so obsessed with somebody that any level of attention is good attention. It is the boil a bunny on the stove
Right.
level of I want your attention.
Right. Or if you're angry,
right?
or both.
Or both, right? But to me, it seems very attention-seeking behavior.
Yeah. And
I'm going to do
at
this
that
thing
point,
if
she
you
hadn't
don't.
really had contact with him in, I think, like 6 months or something. So that does back up your assertion.
Um, so great. And then she starts getting some attention
Yeah.
in a way that perhaps she misunderstood at the time when he reaches out and, well, actually, so I don't know about this part. I don't know if he reached out to her and said, hey, you're going to be subpoenaed, or she might have reached out to him and said, oh my God, I've received a subpoena and they want me to talk about this Paula Jones case that you're involved with.
I think
right?
he found out in the deposition for the Jones case that she had been subpoenaed, because I remember watching the deposition on a Clinton affair, and he was totally, when they were asking him about Jennifer Flowers and Paula Jones and everybody else, he was totally calm and cool and just on it. But then when they started asking him about Monica Lewinsky, like, he started gulping and became very uncomfortable. And I think it was totally a blindside to him that they were suddenly asking him about Monica Lewinsky and the hat pin and the gifts that he had given her, and they had specific details that Linda Tripp, of course, had given them. So, yeah.
And at that point, had Monica Lewinsky been, I guess she must have been interrogated. There must have been that famous afternoon in the
Ritz-Carlton. Yeah,
That's it.
It was the Ritz-Carlton, and I am not sure of the timing of that, but I know that was after she had signed the affidavit saying that she never had the sexual relationship with Clinton. That was in 1998. So, and then after that, Ken Starr got the tapes from Linda Tripp. And then a few weeks after that is when Bill Clinton went on TV saying, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. So,
a line that will live
in infamy,
in history.
So
in infamy for
how
sure.
anybody, he must have misspoken when he said that, because nobody could ever have approved him saying that woman, referring to. That's what I think, but maybe they were thinking they were trying to get the public's opinion turned against Miss Lewinsky by calling her that woman. But it's so disrespectful.
It's very disrespectful, and in a way, it's also dehumanizing,
yes.
right? Because it's playing with words. It's putting some distance between you, right? The word, where I get to be real nerdy, the word I in your sentence, and Miss Lewinsky, right? And by making Miss Lewinsky which should be an indirect object of that woman, or that woman, Miss Lewinsky modifies that woman, so the object of the sentence is that woman, right? Like, that's a grammar move. That's intentional. That's not a speaking off of the cuff thing. That's it. And whether or not, I guess I just said it was intentional, maybe it was subconscious, but I think it probably was intentional.
Really?
Because the words that woman, I mean, one, we're talking about it 30 years later, and two, those words do some work in that sentence. They do some real heavy lifting. And so they convey a lot of his anger, his rage, but it also does a lot of work against, and I don't want to say poor Monica Lewinsky, because in the way that I would not press an ex for a job, right? I also would not be able to stand up to the full power of the U.S. government. I would have buckled like a house of cards in 4 seconds. I would have signed everything. I would be on TV. I would be slashing my wrist today publicly for anybody that wanted to see it, right? And she took on the FBI, Ken Starr. She was not going to turn evidence, and maybe some of that is with her left over from her air quotes around love for Bill Clinton. But I think it really speaks to her character, and I could build a great argument about that by just pointing to her today and saying, look at her.
What an amazing woman she is now, yes.
Oh, 120%.
And she has the best hair.
And, Jesus, yeah.
I mean,
really
I don't know how old she is. She's 10 years younger than us or something. She's in her 40s. She looks fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
age has been very
good
kind
to
to
her.
Monica
And she doesn't look
Lewinsky.
like she's had any kind of plastic surgery or anything. She looks just great.
None that you could tell.
No, not even
Right.
Botox. I mean, I don't know, but she looks
We'll
great.
say that, you know what? I'm not going to now bag on Monica Lewinsky. She is genetically gifted,
Yes, she is.
right? But I mean, clearly she's genetically gifted because she had a strength of character and fortitude that I don't have.
Right.
Like I don't.
Very few people would, I think. She had the integrity that I wish Bill Clinton had had.
Well, right.
Right?
Right. She's the Barack Obama of Monica Lewinsky. No. It's Barack Obama of Paula Jones's? No.
I don't know. Yeah.
I just love Barack
But
Obama.
speaking of apologies, so in August, which is like 6 months later, Clinton had to testify to the grand jury, and he finally said, in the grand jury testimony, he said the famous sentence, "It depends on what the meaning of the word is," which is in answer to the question, is there an ongoing affair or something like that? You know, is there an inappropriate relationship with you and Monica Lewinsky? And he's like, well, what do you mean by is? Which, was widely mocked, and rightly so. And another sentence that I can't believe people are allowing him to say.
Oh, but then, I mean, if you're an academic and you're a law scholar, oh my fucking God, that like blows the lid off of like, what are we really doing with law?
He worked hard on what he was saying. If that's the case.
He was good. Yes.
Yeah. So then,
well, I mean, they didn't call him Slick Willie for nothing, right? It had nothing to do with.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So he was that an actual. So walk me back through that again.
So that wasn't an
6
apology.
Months later, he's gone on TV.
So he testified to the grand jury, and he said he admitted to inappropriate intimate contact, and said that at the same time, whether or not he had had an inappropriate relationship depends on what the meaning of the word is. But that afternoon or that night, he talked to the country in a TV address and admitted that he'd had a relationship with Lewinsky. And he said, "Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong. It constituted a critical lapse in judgment and a personal failure on my part, for which I am solely and completely responsible." Now, what do we think of that as an apology?
So that's a very, I'm sorry I got caught, and I'm going to pretend that I am taking ownership of this apology, right? That's a, in a way, it feels to me like I'm now.
Right.
Now, I'm going to show you that I have integrity. I'm going to show you that I'm a good person. I'm going to show you guys, right? There were, so that was August 17th of 98, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that was a very forceful apology.
It looks like a good apology on paper. I think I didn't listen to it, but I think I should go back and listen to it because I suspect that I would not be happy with it if I heard how he said it. Because it is just such a turnaround from everything he had said up to that point, and suddenly he's going to be Mr. Responsible.
100%. It's very accusatory. His tone is, he is blaming the viewer. Even though the words coming out of his mouth on paper look nice, his tone is very, and I think at the time people said he wasn't contrite.
Yes, I remember that.
So it was a big sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. And then his next apology was in September of the same year, and he said, getting better, I don't think there's a fancy way to say that I have sinned. It is important to me that everyone who has been hurt know that the sorrow I feel is genuine. First and most important, my family, my friends, my staff, my cabinet, Monica Lewinsky and her family, and the American people. I have asked all for their forgiveness. And then he said that the Lewinsky matter would always serve as a caution light in my life, and that it was very important that our nation move forward. And that was something that he said a lot, that we need to move on. I need to do my job now. Yeah, we need to forget about this little thing that happened and move forward, which was another thing that worked against him in the apology department. He didn't say, I'm sorry, I did this. It was entirely my fault. I'll take the hit that I need to take, blah, blah, blah. He was like, let's move on.
100%. Let's forget about what I did wrong. Okay, it's over.
Yeah, we're good.
And he could have easily walked away from that podium and never thought about it again.
And then called Monica Lewinsky that night at 2:30 for more phone sex. So.
Wow.
No, I'm not saying he did. I'm saying he could have.
Oh.
I don't think he did.
Oh, God. I was like, I missed that piece of the
sense. That really would be something if he had. No, but I don't think he did have contact with her again after that.
Well, but it's probably not,
yeah,
right? Not after that, right? He couldn't be that stupid. But then you would think, you couldn't have an affair with an intern. You couldn't be that stupid if you're president of the United States.
But she says he has never apologized to her personally.
He never has.
So
his apologies have always been public to the public.
Yep. And to his family, and it's all about how it affected him. My family was affected, and my family was hurt, and I was hurt, and this is all about me. So I didn't like that.
And we need to move on.
Yeah, and we need to move on now.
I've heard everybody, but it's time to move on from the hurt, right? And it's great that he gets to decide that.
Yeah.
He gets to decide it's time to move on. Let's see. So I didn't see that second apology. I did watch the first.
I think there were 7 or 8 of them.
The one that
and he was even apologizing earlier this year.
Dozens. And actually, so so I typed into Google, the Google machine, right? Clinton apology.
Mm-hmm.
And it pulled up a bunch of videos,
mm-hmm.
right? But multiples of the same video.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay, this must be the first apology. And it wasn't. It's a 2010 apology that he makes at the National Prayer Breakfast. Wow. Right? That wonderful symbol of the separation of church and state, the National Prayer Breakfast. And he said, I agree with those who have said that my first statement after I testified was not contrite enough. Oh, actually, you just read that.
No, I think that's different.
Okay. I don't think there's a fancy way to say that I have sinned.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe he said that twice.
Well, probably. And what I didn't like about that was it's the stereotypical politician using sin as a means of apology in a religious setting,
really
right?
Wrong.
Because now you're forgiven, we all forgive you, right? We're all having affairs with interns too.
Right, and it's between me and God's forgiven me, so what problem do you have?
Let's move on.
Let's move on.
God says we should move on.
Right, God says.
You just told me.
But there were so many apologies. And there was one in, I think, 2018. And he apologized to her.
There was.
And at the same time, he was saying things like, I dealt with it 20 years ago, and the American people stayed with me. I've tried to do a good job since then with my life and with my work, and that's all I have to say. And then maybe at the same interview as NBC in June 2018, he was asked if he thought he owed Monica a personal apology, and he said indignantly, no, I do not. So I don't think that he was sorry, even though he kept apologizing. And not only, by the way, not only did he apologize for the Lewinsky thing, he apologized for the Rwandan genocide, the overthrow of Hawaii in 1983, the Tuskegee study, Japanese internment, and Guatemala, and probably a whole lot of other things I didn't find out. So he is an apology fanatic. And I don't know if he did any of them any better than the Lewinsky apologies.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, maybe it's common
That's
for presidents
really
to apologize for these things, and I think it's really good that he did, because we needed to apologize for these things. It would have been better if we hadn't done them in the first place, which is exactly how I feel about the whole Lewinsky thing. You can apologize all you want. It's a nice gesture if it's authentic, but it should never have happened, and you can't apologize some things away.
Well, and I think that's really key here, right? For the why does Bill Clinton keep issuing all these
Yeah.
apologies? Because he wants it to go away.
Yeah.
And so, how do you make something go away in normal life? I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Right.
So, yeah, he did make a comment about he's apologized a dozen times over the years, and that was probably in his 2018 apology, where he was like, "I don't personally owe Monica Lewinsky an apology," um, but I mean, maybe he just doesn't understand. And I'm not. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm sort of now giving him benefit of some doubt
Yeah.
here, right? Um, and I really need to watch what I do with this. Um, let's see what I do with this. Um, it's possible he just doesn't understand that the power imbalance was wrong, and in his mind, he's thinking, well, she's as much to blame as I am, even more so,
Yeah.
because she came onto me first, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
If you want to take, I have a crush on you from a 22-year-old as a come on.
Right. Right.
I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be like,
How cute.
you need to go home.
Imagine how mortified you'd be if you confessed your crush on someone. They were like, "Oh, how cute."
I'm sure it's happened, and I probably blocked it out of my memory, which is why I don't have a very specific, moment that comes to mind. But I mean, we've all done
Yeah.
that, right? That thing of like, oh, I like you, right? And yay, 100%. I know. Well, probably mine have always been like the 5-second thing, where you're in a bar. I'm going to go back into the 90s here, right? But so you'd be in a bar and you'd go up to somebody and be like, "Hi, what time is it? Do you have a lighter?" And they'd be like, "I don't wear a watch and I don't smoke." Bye.
Is that how you tell people?
You never come out to say I like
Is
it.
that how I was gonna say? Is that how you tell people you like them? You ask them for a cigarette or a lighter and the time at the same time.
Yes.
That's a pretty good way of doing it. I never thought of that.
Because that's two things, right?
So
you're asking for at the same time. Somebody might not have a watch, but they're going to have one or the other. In the 90s.
Yeah.
Today, if you ask somebody what time it is, something's fucking up, because where's your clock? Where's your phone? I was going to say, where's your clock?
What's a clock?
Totally.
I forget where we were.
So I wonder. So we were at about the 2018 apology, where his apology tour, if you will, where he apologized in June, and it kind of was no, I don't owe her, and then there was a lot of blowback, and I don't think he was expecting that. And then a couple of days later, he came out and made a better apology. And I don't want to get to do I accept it or not until nearer the end, right? But very clearly in one camp. Forgive the man, always, 100%.
Really? Okay.
You're
I'm
no,
like, what?
no. Oh my God.
Like, where did this come from?
He's a man.
Right.
I'm poking the hornet's nest,
That's funny. But Monica has come out of this the winner, I think, in every respect. I mean, not only does she look fantastic, but she's just so self-possessed and intelligent and thoughtful, and she's able to honestly address the issues to the best of her ability, which I think are considerate. I think if she hadn't gotten involved with this ridiculous president, she probably would have made quite a good career at the White House.
Oh, well, I mean, maybe at the White House, right? But I think, and okay, so I'll get a little, I don't know what the word is, I'll find it. But like, you have those moments, everybody has a moment in their life where it's a test of your character. And it kind of forms who you are. Mm-hmm. And it may be a period that extends for a couple of years. It might be a single moment. Mm-hmm. right? Where it's just like life changing, and she has such fortitude.
Yes.
She could have had a beautiful career. Maybe she'd be, I don't know, an ambassador or, I don't want to say a DC wife, right? Because I'm already discounting her as a person. But maybe she would have become a DC wife, right?
I don't know.
Um, but but for sure something in politics. But now she's this humanitarian like figure, and she does so much good in the world.
Yes.
And maybe regardless of what she ended up doing, she would have done some good in the world because she's a very smart, forthright, self-aware,
Yep.
self-possessed
Yep.
person. Like 100% a fan. At no time did I ever think Monica Lewinsky was a bimbo, but for a long time,
Yes.
she was the punchline of a
She
joke.
was. She was. And that one picture of her that was put everywhere was so unflattering. It's just the picture I think of when I think of Monica Lewinsky is that one when her hair is like kind of fluffy around her head. And she looks really not at all the way Monica Lewinsky looked in her everyday life. And, I thought that was I think that was so unfair of them to have used that picture, but I understand why they did.
Oh, why did they?
Because they wanted to portray her in the most bimbo-y, unflattering light that they could, and so they took a picture that made her look was unflattering to her and did not show her as even as a young person. I think she had some degree of self-possession, and they didn't want to show that.
Oh, 100%. So speaking of photos, let's take a quick look at the Vanity Fair incident that occurred hot on the heels of the public admission that Clinton had an affair with that woman.
And didn't her lawyer put her up to that, saying that he wanted to bolster her ego or something? Like her libido was
libido.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yes.
Why would you do that to your client in a case like that?
Why the fuck? And here's why the fuck. So the Lewinsky family had some money and had some connections, but the key word there is some. They had some money and some connections. And the attorney they went for out of, I think he was out of LA. I did a little tiny bit of looking at him because when I read his quote, I could not believe that any attorney would say that to a member of the press, right? So what did he say? He said, she's not feeling good about herself, and she's depressed. And he told reporters her libido was suffering. She's been imprisoned like a dog for 4 months, and she's angry at all the gossip writers who say trashy things about her. Okay, fair enough. But number one, you're likening your client to a dog.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Come on.
Right.
And two, you then help arrange a photo shoot with Herb Ritts for Vanity Fair for your client.
As saying that her libido has been depressed. I mean...
Oh, the libido thing was like...
Outrageous.
That's when I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Oh, but I forgot. So this guy was a wannabe... This is just after the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh.
Right? And every prosecutor, every defense attorney wanted to be Marcia Clark or Johnny Cochran.
Was this her lawyer from out of town?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. William Ginsburg. With, like, your last name's Ginsburg. How can you fuck up with words? And so, let's see. So they arranged this photo shoot for her with Vanity Fair, which at the time magazines were... I mean, how would you explain magazines to a current audience?
I think we still have magazines.
Okay, but I mean... well, no explanation is therefore required. But I mean, like, the importance of magazines, because the magazines
that was
were
how
sort
you got
of
your
our
gossip
internet.
and your pop news, your entertainment news, and that sort of thing. And Vanity Fair had some really good articles in it that were political and sociologically important.
And they went deep.
Yeah.
So you got your news from TV or the radio, and CNN was still a relative. Oh my God! I mean, we're so old. This is ridiculous. Listen to how much media has changed, right? And when you wanted like in-depth information on a topic, you really weren't going to get that from a newspaper.
Right.
You had to go
A
to a library
magazine.
and do some
Yeah.
research, or a magazine might do like an expose or
Right.
something. And so this was like Vanity Fair was one of the leading lifestyle magazines at the time, and this was a big deal. I don't know who their competition would have been. Maybe like Time magazine, which was really more newsy.
I'm trying to think.
I mean, there kind of wasn't
There wasn't.
competition for them.
No, I can't think of it. No, I don't know.
Not for like
Well, Rolling Stone was doing some
an,
articles at the time, so maybe them.
Rolling Stone, but they probably would have gone more the politics.
Yeah.
And so we'll just say that Vanity Fair was the only choice,
Okay.
right? But everybody wanted, oh my God, I was going to say everybody wanted a piece of Lewinsky. And that's like funny, but not, right? But truly, that's, I mean, when considering an apology, I think it's important to look at the damage that's been done, right? And so Monica's attorney, even though he's representing her, immediately sets her up for public failure by talking about her libido.
Right.
And these Herb Ritts photos they're fine. You know, one's really good. Like one's the photo you want on your book jacket, right? She's wearing a black, I don't know, like businesswoman suit, but it's really stylish, kind of like Coco Chanel sort of thing, but it's all black and her arms are crossed and she looks really strong.
Good.
I mean, together, right? She's kind of the Monica that when you think of Monica Lewinsky today, and you see her, that's who you see, just poise radiating from that photo. But then there's this one photo where she's like in a one-piece bathing suit standing in a beach in Malibu with an American flag flying in the wind behind her back she's holding up. And it's a very Marilyn Monroe troupe pinup kind of girl sort of photo. And not where we should have gone, guys. So very much the press was sexualized. Of course, you know, I mean, Monica's not stupid. And so clearly she decided, yeah, this is a pose I'll do. And I mean, I don't know, because I haven't researched it or looked at it. And I don't know if she's ever addressed it. So I don't know if she was kind of forced into this, let's make a glamour girl kitten out of you. But at the time, there was kind of this, it felt to me at the time that the Lewinsky camp was trying to figure out what her public persona was going to be, could be, right? And really her options were Hillary Clinton or Marilyn Monroe. You're either going to be a strong, powerful businesswoman or you're going to be a sex kitten.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And those are your two options. And maybe those are why there's those photos. And so then Vanity Fair had a nice little paragraph about Monica Lewinsky, and I will read this to you from their July 1998 edition, titled "Who's That Girl?" Because that's all of America wanted to know. It's official. Good Americans think that what grown people do in the privacy of their own Oval Office is no one else's concern. We don't want, in other words, interference in our interns' affairs. But surely a peck, a glimpse, a hint could do no real harm to the Republic. In the spirit of open government, and for the heck of it, Monica Lewinsky permits Herb Ritts to remove her first veil. Pretty good writing, I'm going to say, but also very...
it pisses me off.
Objectify. Well, it's totally Monica Lewinsky is a sexual object, right? It's layered with innuendo. And also, we know what we're doing when we say affairs and in the privacy of your own Oval Office vagina.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Well, I'm an English major, and so if you give me a word, I will stretch it to be whatever I want it to be to help me prove a point, right?
Oh
And
my
then,
God.
argue against me, math
I was just
majors.
getting mad that
Fuck
they
you,
were
math
saying,
majors.
whatever you do in the privacy of the Oval Office is your own business, when it clearly is not. What you do in the Oval Office is the country's business. That's why they put you there, right? So that's my opinion.
Oh, if you were mad, get
Oh
ready.
boy.
There's more. And by
Okay.
the way, this was written by Christopher
Oh,
Hitchens.
okay. No wonder. He always pisses me off.
Okay, all right. Because I've got something from Iowa State Daily. If we need to get there, you'll fucking lose your mind. Okay, let's see. So this is about 3 paragraphs. I won't take up a lot of time reading this, but let's start with the opener. So was this the face? The face that launched 1,000 subpoenas and ruined the coverage of His Holiness in Havana? Since January, America has been subsisting on a meager diet of Pentagon high school mugshots, revealing more about American dentistry than about the obscure object of desire. Now Monica Lewinsky has graduated. She has graduated furthermore into that pantheon of women who, it seems, shook men enough to shake history. Helen of Troy, Theodora of Byzantium, Camilla Parker Bowles. They have nothing in common with each other, but everything in common with an ancient narrative that everybody, however coy or hypocritical, is encoded to understand. Best of all, Monica has joined this class without saying a public word. Her lips, wait, here are the lips that Revlon nearly hired. Here's the unarguable femininity that got the alpha and the beta males from Vernon Jordan to Kenneth Starr biting through their pencils and stuffing the briefcases. And I mean, we could go on and on and on. Well, that was the nice one.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, when we say Monica Lewinsky went through
She went through hell.
the ringer.
She went through hell. Absolutely did for years. And she says she has PTSD. And actually that leads up to a good quote, which she said. She said, now, this is 2 years ago, she said, now at 44, I'm just beginning to consider the implications of the power differentials that were so vast between a president and a White House intern. I'm beginning to entertain the notion that in such a circumstance, the idea of consent might well be rendered moot. Although power imbalances and the ability to abuse them do exist even when the sex has been consensual. So she's coming to her senses, in my opinion. I'm sorry she has PTSD, but I believe it, and I believe a lot of it came from the press.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, the press, for sure. But also kind of the press is sort of, in that era, right? You could kind of ignore the press a little bit. Like, it wasn't on your phone. It wasn't on your computer.
Right, you had to seek it out a little bit.
We had computers or laptops. Yeah, I mean, maybe walking down the street, there was a newspaper box or something. And were you front page news? Okay, great. If you're on page 2, you're not going to see it. I think, and I don't know this, but I put myself in her shoes again. For me, it would be the personal stuff. It would be like in the grocery store or when you run into the 7-Eleven to grab a pack of gum.
Yeah, you get the Star or the Enquirer or whatever.
Oh, no, I'm thinking about the clerk behind the counter who who maybe says something like, nice shade of lipstick, lady. But he knows you're Monica Lewinsky, and he's making a blowjob joke. Right?
I see.
Microaggressions, we now properly know them as, right? So I guess that's what I should say is all the microaggressions that she endured and all the punchlines and jokes that people made to her face.
About
because
everything.
She was just 100%. I mean,
she wasn't conventionally thin, so she got all kinds of heat for that. And looking back at it now, she was a perfectly healthy weight. There was nothing about her that was, she was not obese by any stretch of the imagination. And even if she was, she shouldn't have gotten any heat for it. But she definitely got heat for it.
Right, and that's because they, we have women's sexuality, and she wasn't meeting the proper form, right? That society said this is what a sexual woman looks. This is what a woman looks like that men would throw their careers away for. Oh, she doesn't look like that. She's the problem.
Yeah.
Right. Because if she had fit more of a I don't know, beauty standard, cultural idea of what beauty standard.
Totally.
She might have become.
She could have been famous, like famous in a good way.
Well, yeah, or like an Anna Nicole Smith type.
Right.
Although Anna Nicole Smith is lacking the intelligence of Monica Lewinsky.
She's also dead.
Sorry, Anna, I'm a fan.
Sadly.
That I'm just not even going to tell you the jokes that went through my head.
That's good. Don't.
Okay. Yeah. No. We'll need to cut that part out. Okay, so we both agree that Monica Lewinsky went through an inordinate amount of hell, unfairly so. Not from her own creation. We can't say, "Oh, Monica, you should have known better."
You brought it on yourself.
Right?
No, there's no way she could possibly have predicted that any of this would happen.
No, and I'll even say, like, I have done stupid things. I have suffered the consequences for, right? I've done stupid things that I haven't suffered the consequences for, which led to other stupid things. So even if, let's argue that, she deserved it, she brought it on herself, okay, fine. That was the fire that tempered the steel, that made the person we see today standing before us, right? Who is a person that I would not only align myself with, but I would like to be more like.
Right. And that reminds me,
I think I'm a pretty great person.
Of a quote that I heard on My Favorite Murder, which you probably heard if you listened this week, is I think it must have been Brene Brown, because they were talking about a podcast they love, and they never said which one it was, but I think it was probably the Brene Brown podcast. And she said something like, the people who have been through something, the people who have suffered trauma, are the people who need to save the world, because they understand what it is to go through shit. That's not quite how she said it, but...
That is, I did hear that quote, and it was very mindful, I suppose is the word, very, very aware, right? And I liked that. And 100% agree, right? And so yes. And then, so on the side, we have Monica Lewinsky, who's crawled through the fire and come out, right, on the other side of it. And then we have Bill Clinton, who, he got reelected. Did he? I don't think he had another affair, public affair.
Not that we know of.
That's ever
and he
come
actually
out, right?
had ended that affair before all this came out, tried to end the affair with Monica, saying that he had a habit of having these affairs and wanted to stop.
Which, for somebody like a Bill Clinton, is that true? Of course, I know. Let me back up there. So yes, I know that he did end the affair, and then like a couple of months later, called her and had phone sex, right? Yeah. And
typical.
Sure, we've all done that. We've all broken up with somebody and then gone back to them, right? Out of weakness or whatever. But I guess. Well, no, I don't. So yes, like, is Bill Clinton a sex addict?
Probably.
I don't know. Probably. Seems likely. Did he learn something from the Monica Lewinsky scandal? And I don't even like that it has her name on it. But then I heard somebody else make a great point, which was, there were so many Clinton scandals, you have to put a name on this one. And
that's
fair
true.
enough. Whether the scandals were true or not, there were a lot, right? So maybe we'll just call it the intern affair. Or I don't know. Maybe Monica's like, great. Call it whatever you want. I don't care. My life is great. I'm fine. You do you. But did he suffer? Sure, he suffered. did he suffer as much and as long as Monica Lewinsky? Not even by a long shot. And, at that point, do we... Okay, I mean, are we at the point where we would say, like, do you accept the apology?
Yeah, how do you want to do that, too?
So, yeah, great question. So the thing that I love about the podcasts that I listen to is that there is some structure to them, but they're very natural flowing conversations, and I'm there more for the vicarious companionship and friendship, right? And a little bit of entertainment. And then, my informational podcasts are very specific. Right. And I don't go to them because I really want to hear Herman talk.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I want to know about Julius Caesar. Right. And I've got 20 minutes to burn. So I guess whenever it comes up, I mean, we just, make it up as we make it up. But it kind of feels like we've gone through sort of what happened. And I mean, some really good discussion. There was a lot of stuff that I was unaware of that you brought to light. And in particular, I really liked that I had no idea I was such a Republican back in the day. You were. I don't disagree at all. I totally can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a dark period of your life.
Came from or why. Wow. Well, I mean, probably.
I hope not really. But at least you're over it now.
Oh, well, no. I mean, 100%. I mean, if the Republicans are for legalizing all the drugs, sex workers, if
they were Democrats, you'd be right.
Yeah. So universal income, universal health care. I mean, why the fuck not if we can? So, okay. So we are at that point where, what do you think of the apology? And is it one that you would accept? And I guess collectively we could say all of his... There's so many Clinton apologies for this incident.
Right. So you have to take them all into account, I think. The first one, I don't think anyone would accept. I, having hated Bill Clinton from the beginning, having not been surprised that he was having an affair with a 22-year-old intern, having felt that was wrong and bad for Monica, I do not find his apologies to be sufficient.
I would agree. And I did a 180 on this because before I looked at it, I was like, yeah, he's sorry. Oh, I mean, okay, I would accept his apology, right? He's said he was sorry, and let's move on, right?
So what would make his apology better?
What would make his apology better would be if Monica Lewinsky were to ever say, yes, he reached out to me personally to apologize, and I accepted. Because his apologies to date, even up through 2018, are very, I'm going to perform the action of an apology, but I don't mean it. Right. And or if I'm sorry for anybody, I'm sorry for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I mean, on the level, and I've, over the years, prior to this podcast, I have had arguments with Republicans, right? Particularly in this Trump era, the starting of the Trump era, going back 4 years ago. We had friends who probably will never hear this, watch, they'll hear it. And we had them over for dinner. Nice couple, married couple, right? Older, but not old. And what the fuck? Why am I going through all that? And diehard Republicans, 100%. And they were defending Trump. And again, early on, he hadn't been elected to office, right? It was whatever the craziness of those primaries were. And, we were very much like, oh my God, like, who are these people, right? And they really quickly moved it into the Clintons. Like, within 5 seconds, it came down to, well, the Clintons. And I said words to the effect of, I really don't care what Bill Clinton did with his dick. I care what he did with my constitutional rights. And therefore, job well done, Thank you, sir. Done. And, no need to go any further. I don't care what he did in the White House, right? Oh, but the White House is a sacred space. John F. Kennedy. Clinton's not the first guy to have
Certainly not.
done something, unsavory, if we will, in the White House. And yeah, I mean, they were like, okay, all right, Theo, well, this is really good spaghetti. And the conversation moved on because, how do you?
Yeah.
Like, if you ever want to win an argument, just bring up JFK and it shuts everything down.
I'll have to try that.
It's true. It's like how every argument goes to Hitler at some point. Right?
Right.
JFK just diffuses everything.
Oh my gosh.
God, you look like JFK today. Thank you.
It's funny that you bring up JFK because I was thinking early on when I was doing research for this, I was thinking that Bill Clinton probably wanted to be a Kennedy and thought of himself as a Kennedy. He has that
100%
attitude and that that entitlement and that feeling that he should really be the president. And to a large degree, he did a good job as president. He just fucked up big time in this area.
And it is that thing of every great person has a fatal flaw. Otherwise, there's no story, right? And with Hillary, and I love Hillary, 100%. I don't care. You could show me a picture of her riding on a broom eating a baby, and I would be like, that baby looks delicious. Please let me know when I've gone out of line somewhere, and I will rein it back in. Oh, no, you
keep going.
Yeah. Oh God, it wasn't. I got lost in that Hillary eating a baby thing now. I mean, whatever. I think your point about the Kennedys is super right on track. He really thought they were going to have the Camelot. They even tried that sort of thing
they did.
With their press, right? Whereas the Obamas really, literally were the reinvention of the Kennedys.
I love them so much.
Oh my God.
They can do no wrong.
100%. Never. You could show me a picture of Michelle Obama on a broom eating a baby.
I'd be like, she looks so good eating that baby.
You're right. So whatever it was about Hillary that I was going to say, I'm a fan, and then I was going to say something negative. And can't remember the point. It'll be fun for me to re-listen to this.
I know. It'll be interesting.
Because it'll be like, oh my God, that's what I was going to say. That point's so important. We have to put it in. But yeah, okay. So, God, I talk a lot, which I guess is good on a podcast. It's good on
a podcast, yes. One of us needs to.
Well, I like that you say the smart things. When you first started talking, I was like, I didn't study hard enough for this. Like, wow.
Thanks. That's sweet.
Dilexicon? Wow. Okay, so so initially, yes, with Clinton, I was very much like, all right, he apologized, time's gone by, it was a vast right-wing conspiracy, so not that it wasn't his fault, he should have known better, but he did it, and then he said he was sorry, so, okay, good enough for me, and Monica's okay now, so fine, right? And it didn't happen to me, my personal moment with Clinton when he lied to me very quickly was forgotten when I saw the truly vast right-wing conspiracy. Oh, yeah. It was plain as fucking day when it was happening. Actually, here's my moment of pride. I was a registered Republican when I was like 18 and just kind of never took care of that. And I voted for whoever. But I did vote for Reagan when I was 18. But he reminded me of my granddad, and I was 18. Oh, yeah. Right? He's nice. Yeah, I voted. Little did I know. Right.
Started
live and learn. Like Clinton.
Yeah.
Little did I know. Yeah. Right. But now, okay, so having gone through this and read these apologies and watched these apologies, No, I don't accept the apology. I don't think it's sincere. Um, and minus the fallout, let's say nothing ever happened to Monica and she was perfectly fine throughout the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? Um, yeah, I know a sincere apology when I hear one, when I see one.
Yeah.
And this wasn't it.
No. It was none of them. None of the apologies were. If he apologized right, he wouldn't have to do it over and over again, in my opinion. But maybe he will. Maybe he will. Maybe they're getting better every time he does them. So maybe one day he'll, have the balls to reach out to Monica Lewinsky directly in person and say, "I'm sorry for, my part in this mess that I put you in." And he really did put her in that mess. He was the one who called her into the office. He was the one who called her on the phone. She could never call him back. She didn't have a number to call him. She wasn't allowed to call him. She wasn't allowed to go into the White House to see him unless she had an escort or unless she had some reason to be there, which he would always give her. So, it was all entirely his control when he saw her. So it was entirely his responsibility that the whole thing happened. No.
Oh, 100%. Even when I was 22,
Mm-hmm.
right, I knew I did not have the self-determination, if you will, to really be making dating decisions when it came to dating older people,
Right.
right? Um, Guys my own age, I didn't even think about
Yeah.
like that because there was no power imbalance. But when there was a power imbalance, like I knew it wasn't a real relationship, even if we dated for 6 months,
Right.
and even if there was dinner and all of that. Like I knew it could never be a thing.
Even if there was dinner?
Is that good or bad? I meant like a romantic dinner
Right,
where
right.
maybe like he cooked and put the dishes on the table,
He made an
right?
effort, yeah.
And that happened a lot, right? Right. Okay, that's a nice way to put it. He made an effort,
Yeah.
even if effort was put on, even if and when they knew my favorite things about me, right? And responded to them or whatever. Here's your favorite writer, new
Right.
book, right? Oh, that's great. Never once did I think like we're going to get married because the power imbalance was just too much.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Monica, that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, it
But
wasn't
then
for
it
me.
is different for women.
When I was 20, whatever, and 18, excuse me, let me clear my throat.
Okay.
When I was 18 and dating a 34-year-old man, it never occurred to me there was a power imbalance. I mean, considering that I was much smarter than him, maybe there wasn't. No. But I totally see Monica's perspective on that at her age, that she would think it was consensual and not really understand. Just too young to understand what was going on.
That's it. She was too young to understand, and while legally she could give consent, maybe do I want to use the word emotional? What's the word for intellectually, emotionally? Like it's like emotional IQ. There's a word for that. I don't
know either.
I'll have to find that. Yeah. So. She wasn't emotionally developed enough, emotionally intelligent. That's the word I'm looking for.
Intelligent.
She wasn't emotionally intelligent enough to really be making that kind of a decision. Not her fault.
No, not
That's
her fault.
just you're 22.
His fault. He knew she was 22. He knew she couldn't do it.
100%. That's why he did
Yeah,
it.
that's why he did it.
That's totally why he did
totally
it.
why he did it.
Because she was 22.
She was cute.
She was there.
She would accept that kind of bullshit. Yeah.
And that's the other big thing, right? She would put up with it. She didn't know any better, or her feelings got involved. And I do like to think that he was in love with Monica Lewinsky for
a little bit.
For as much as he could feel love. Right?
I'm gonna try and pretend that he was.
I mean, I think one could build the case. And let's say, I know what I was going to say when I was like, oh, Hillary, let's imagine we take you into the future where it's 10 years from now and Hillary Clinton has had a marvelous life and has died very peaceably. Or maybe she's just divorced Bill and moved to France. That's better.
That's great.
Nobody has to die in this. Okay? Right. So, yes, totally great. I'm waiting for my ticket to France. So, moves to France, totally happy. Everything's great. And then Bill Clinton says, Monica Lewinsky, the love of my life, will you marry me?
She's going to say, fuck no.
I might accept that apology. I think, yeah, she'd say no, right?
But that would be...
Sadly, he'd be in his 80s.
That would be sweet on his behalf. I mean, I don't know if sweet's the right word after everything he put her through. It would be delusional, but...
Oh, totally, 100%. But maybe, maybe some sort of a I did love her kind of a thing. Some sort of an admission of emotion might make me say, oh. But I think, regardless of whether or not we accept his apology, I accept, you accept, a lot of people were really hurt by this. A lot of real people had real feelings about it. And then a lot of other people, like me, just sort of were like bystanders who have no emotional investment in it whatsoever, but are self-centered enough to say, I don't accept your apology.
No, you're an American citizen. You have a right to his apology as the President of the United States.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so Bill Clinton, unfortunately, is a no.
As a no.
Would that it were otherwise. Maybe one day it'll be a yes.
Maybe one day he will come out with an acceptable apology. We can only hope.
Maybe. And maybe he will. I mean, he's very legacy driven. And he has done a lot of good work. I mean, I will say that outside of Jimmy Carter, I would struggle to point to a president who's been better for the world. As a post-president humanitarian, the Clinton Foundation does great and amazing work. Okay, are you ready for my surprise segment of the show?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
So it's called Who's Sorry Now? And I would like to know who owes you an apology, and then who do you owe an apology to?
Oh my God. Oh wow.
And it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to be bit, because, if we come off like we accept the apology, we don't accept the apology, and then it's over and it's done, we're assholes on some level.
Oh, sure.
Right? So, and maybe if you want to be guilty, if there's money, okay, I'll play that game. But, then if we have apologies, it sort of, says, hey, we're very self-aware people. We totally get this. This is fun and entertainment. But there is some discussion. These are air quotes around real issues. And then by humbling ourselves, by admitting that we owe apologies to people, we're on the same playing field as everyone else then. I'll go first because I sprung it on you.
Yeah, give me time to think about it.
And you need time to think about it. And we could, when we redo this, we can do it then, right? But so just kind of like forgetting the form, because I love this, making this a practice. Took all the pressure off. Oh my God, the notes I didn't get to. Oh my God, the outline I was going to follow.
Oh, I have a whole segment that I didn't talk about. So.
Oh, great. Well, then on take two, we'll, but no, this is good, and I love things that are organic. I mean, one of the things about My Favorite Murder that I really love is that I got to go on the journey with them from George's, dining room table to world tours, right? And sometimes I forget that we're not friends,
right? And
I will say things like, my friend Karen, she's not my friend. Okay, so of course. I'm gay and you're a woman, so somewhere in the world, somebody owes us an apology every minute of the day.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Right? But I would say the person who owes me an apology is the lady in the grocery store at Trader Joe's yesterday in Austin. You know who you are, came charging down the aisle with a shopping cart, right? Turned the corner as I was walking forward without a shopping cart, right? Because I'm just in there to get one or two things. Almost totally smashes straight into me and shoots me a look. Hi, when you come to the end of an aisle in a grocery store, you have to stop and wait because you are turning into oncoming traffic. That's just how you don't know that. Drives me crazy. So she totally owes me an apology, and I made sure I told her so under my breath through my mask. I thought it real hard at her. Let's see. And then who do I owe an apology to? Anybody that was driving on the road in Austin yesterday. At any point during the day, I'm really sorry, everybody. I am an aggressive driver, and you are all fucking slow. But I'm sorry.
I'm going to call you on this, though. I think your apologies are too high level, and I think you need to come at it more from your heart. Like, who owes you an apology that really hurt you?
Oh, wow. Good question, because what I was thinking for this segment, right, I'm imagining episode 100, and I probably don't have 100 sincere apologies in me, but I've got 100
fake ones.
Yeah, of those moments.
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, fake ones.
We can make them. We can alternate.
Okay, all right. So maybe for the inaugural episode, that's a really good one. I wasn't coming to it. I don't mean to turn my back to you. Sorry. From that. Clearly, I don't want to talk about it. Look at me. Hi, Juliette. How are you today?
You still have a lot of hair on your head.
Yeah.
It's
well,
great.
I mean, partially. It's. I'm wearing a hairband, and it's. I mean, I don't care.
Right.
And for the most part, it doesn't matter. I've seen my grandfather, so I know. Well, it doesn't matter. I've got 20 years left on this planet. I can handle 20 years as a bald person. Fine, great. I've handled worse for much longer. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, heartfelt. Okay, you know what? Since we're talking about affairs and stupid sexual things like that. Okay, so let's see. So, who do I owe an apology to that would be in the Monica Lewinsky sort of Bill Clinton camp of apologies? I know it. Okay. So this would be who I owe an apology to, who owes me. You know who owes me an apology?
Who?
And so this is true, but then it's also kind of funny, but not. But it is. So.
Oh yeah.
My first real boyfriend owes me an apology for gaslighting me for the 4 years of our relationship, where I thought that we were in a monogamous relationship, and we weren't by any stretch of the imagination. And I didn't know it. And, it was my fault for thinking bad things about him.
Oh my God,
and,
yes. I can totally relate.
Yeah. Oh,
hello.
100%. And then... and of course I'm fine.
Sure.
It's well past. Sure. It's all done. Right. I found out I was right, and I had my victory moment.
Yeah.
Let's see, and it all worked out. So hooray! And then I owe an apology to who was a guy that I dated in the '90s, who was older and was successful, and I didn't take the 6 months that we had dinner together as anything more than casual fun, and never gave it that chance. And so much so casual that he went to Israel for vacation, and he sent me a postcard, and I got the postcard, and I was like, that's so weird. Why did he send me a postcard while he was on vacation? Right?
Wow. You were uninvested.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I liked. He was fun. He was nice. He was really smart. He was great company. He was a good cook. He was very kind and caring for the most part. But there were these moments where I didn't necessarily agree with his politics. Very, if you thought I was Republican, much more so, right?
So what do you owe him an apology for?
So, I guess so. The ultimate apology for is we had dinner. He had just gotten back from Israel, and it was his breaking up with me dinner, right? And so I showed up, sat down, we had dinner, and I was like, "How was your trip to Israel? And how were things?" And blah blah blah. And he said, and I can remember this verbatim, right? Because whatever, we're just having a little conversation over dinner. It's fine. And then he takes his pause and he says, "Speaking of ending things." And I was like, "Yes." And he said, "I think that we've just come to our natural conclusion." Words to that effect. That I don't remember verbatim, but I do remember, speaking of ending things, because I really tuned in at that point, right? So clearly I wasn't totally tuned in. And then it was like, this has been fun, but I need a boyfriend who, and I said, "Dan, we were never boyfriends."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it jumped out of my mouth. Like, I wasn't really thinking. And I didn't do it to hurt him.
Sure.
I also didn't do it to alleviate his guilt or his pressure. I think what I was doing was letting him know that, like, this wasn't necessary. We didn't have to have a dinner and feel all this pressure, right? Yeah. About, I've got to tell Theo I never want to see him again. Gosh. You could just have never seen me again. And I would have noticed, but I wouldn't have lost any sleep over it, so to speak, which that's terrible. So I owed apology. Maybe I'll just say he has passed away. He was hit by a car crossing the street in Beverly Hills.
Oh my God.
And yeah, he was 65.
Jeez.
And then, how did I find that out? I think I Googled him. You like Google stalk people, right? So he was a judge. He was appointed by the governor of California. I don't know when, right? But I was like, oh, good for like, he always wanted to go back to D.C. and get involved in politics, but I'm glad that, like, his political fortunes allowed him enough exposure to that world to be appointed as a judge. Great. And then he was crossing the street illegally and was hit by a car. And so in reading the article, and I've read a couple of articles, because when you find out somebody a day had died, it's like, what the fuck? Tell me more, right? He was a little too old for Facebook, right? So there weren't a lot of fingerprints over the internet. But, some stories, and I found one article that mentioned his longtime partner of 20-something years. Yeah, and I was like, oh, well, good for having a boyfriend for 20 years. I saw him 19 years ago. Was it 19 years ago? Maybe it was 21 years ago. Like, I had that moment where it was like, wait, what?
That's so funny.
I know I was a toy boy kind of a thing, but what? All right. So I like that. I think you're right. That's better than keeping it 30,000 feet above real sincerity.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Do you want to think about it and save it for a real session?
No, I think I have. Well, there are two people that owe me an apology with the same first name, and that first name is and one of them went to his grave never apologizing to me, and I'm not going to say he deserved to die for what he did to me.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But I was really mad at him.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that.
No one's.
And not my business.
If he didn't tell anyone what it was, I'm not going to tell anyone. So, yeah.
No.
That's a little heavy. I said he deserved to die. I didn't mean that, but I was. That's how mad I was at him.
I mean, not knowing what happened, I can't. I got no frame of reference. And literally not knowing what happened, because yes, he never said anything about it. And whenever I mentioned you, right, which probably was often, we used to talk every day when I commuted to work, for hours at a time. Blah, blah, blah. So you were just so much a part of my world. I'm sure I mentioned your name once, if not 10 times, right?
I mean, he was an okay guy.
He might say like, "How are you?" But like, I never got a flicker of anything. And I even, not that I forgot, but like, I guess I even forgot that I knew you were mad at him because he was living in San Francisco at the time. And it was like, oh, I should, Juliette. Oh yeah, no, because they don't like each other. Or she didn't like him. Not that they don't like each other. Whatever.
So that's not a very good story there, because I can't say why he needs to apologize to me. But the other person that needs to apologize to me is the who needs to apologize to me for the same reason that what's his name needs to apologize to you, is that he gaslit me into thinking I was in a monogamous relationship when I was not. And
yes, I totally remember that.
Yeah, and that was like 3 years, was it 4 years of my life that I wasted basically with an absolute jerk.
It was a horrible period.
Yeah, it was terrible.
That was a very long period.
It was.
Yes, and he did it intentionally.
He did.
Okay, so that's a really good one, because you've got a double, and they have the same name. Right?
Don't never trust someone named. That's my advice.
Never.
And the person that I owe an apology to is actually, and this is going to be a hard one to explain, but is actually. And it's so funny, these are all people that you know, but of course you've been here like all my life, so of course you know them. But I owe an apology because one night, she and I were standing on the landing of her apartment, and she wanted something, and I didn't want to do it, and I just looked at her in this way that was like, maybe I wanted her to do something or something, and I looked at her this way, like, I could make you do that right now, but I'm not going to. And I turned around and left. I didn't say that, but that was the look I gave her. And I had that feeling, and I have always felt guilty about that. And I need to apologize to her for that. I don't know if she even noticed, but...
Well, she went to your wedding.
Yeah, so she's not that mad.
Yeah, no, she's not that. I was trying to explain to James... So I told him, "Hey, Juliette and I were going to be doing a podcast." And I told you, he looked at me like I said we were going to have a car wash or a lemonade stand.
I can totally see it.
Oh, that's cute. 100%. That's my new thing this month. I say 100%.
Well, that's
all
our merch.
The time,
that's our first merch. We have T-shirts that say 100%.
Okay, 100%. But so I said, yeah, and then he said something like, "How long have you known her?" Right? And I said,
100 years.
Oh gosh, well, let's see. We met really in the 11th grade. Oh no, I know what it was. He was asking me about.
Oh yeah.
So I mentioned the podcast, and I'm back in touch with because of the pandemic.
Oh wow.
She's an RN.
Oh good.
And I reached out to her by phone to say, "Hey, I just realized you're an RN.
Oh, shit.
Like, I'm hoping you're okay," right? And we hadn't spoken maybe in 5 years, maybe, other than maybe an occasional, and I mean like once every 3 years, little Facebook like or something, right? So whatever. It'd been years and years and years. And she's tech back and she's fine, right? So great. And then we just started talking, got on the phone. I was like, "Look, this is stupid." Well, I didn't say that, but in my head I was like, "This is stupid. Make time for people," right? And I'm so glad that we're back in touch and we talk once a week, and it's lovely. So anyway, so I was explaining to like, yeah, and then in 7th grade, she was friends with, and that's how I met Juliette, because Juliette and were friends and friends with.
Right.
And I don't know how I knew. Maybe I think I was walking down the hallway when I was new, and it's like, hey, this is my friend. Like, maybe we just had a class. I don't think she was my guardian. Like, you're the new kid, you shadow her or whatever. It wasn't that. I don't think. But so yeah, and I do remember meeting you for the first time. I
don't remember meeting you. When was that? What happened?
Oh, we were, I was in the 10th grade, you were in the 11th grade, and I hung out in the smoking area, and I hung out with, and friends with, come down even though she didn't smoke, and she would hang out, and I think you would walk by to go to lunch or something, and then one day you stopped to talk, and I remember saying, "This is my friend Julie," right? And me saying, eventually, and I don't think it was in that same moment, but I made some joke and I used the R word, right? And I'll never forget this. And you looked at me and you said, "My sister is."
Oh, did I? Was that the first time we met? Oh my God, I came on hard.
I don't think it was the first time we met, but it might have been real close. Yeah. And of course, I was making a joke like, everyone's going to notice how funny I am, right? Because this is so timely. And when I said that, I was like, oh my God, I can't, like, I don't think I'd ever put my foot in my mouth before. So I've not made any jokes ever since, as you can imagine.
Wow, I didn't realize that. But how interesting.
Oh, I totally remember that. And then, so I'm explaining all that, but I left out the bit about making the joke because, I need to look good in every story I tell, which this podcast will quickly erase. And he's just looking at me like his head was tilted sideways. And I said, "I'm sorry, I'm giving you like the friendship dynamics of a 7th grader, She's friends with her and friends with her, but not friends with her. They don't talk, but she and she do talk. And so I was the middle person. And they would all talk to me. I could, so yeah.
Wow.
I owe you an apology. I'm sure I said I'm sorry at the time. Not like, I'm sorry for you, but like, I'm sorry I said that.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Because that would be a natural. That or you curl up and die. I mean, it's one or the other.
Yeah, that's my standard thing when someone uses that word, and I generally they're like stunned and they're like, whatever, sorry, man. So.
But I mean, rightfully so. I think that's good because it normalizes and lets people know that like that's not just
it's
some
not just some
sort
word.
of joke punchline. Yeah,
there are people behind it.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Funny.
Which I didn't realize at the time
Sure.
at 16, 15, 17, however old I was in the 10th grade.
Young.
I was smoking. I was old enough to smoke.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
I can't believe it.
Jesus. Whole life away. Well, and I know I'm not trying to get off the call because I got all the time in the all I have to do is study for a teaching license. I got all the time in the world.
You gonna teach?
I gotta do something. I cannot get hired to save my life, and I don't know what it is. But I mean, right now, other than COVID and the pandemic, I mean, millions of people without work and all that. But like, yeah, I'm just not getting anything.
Oh.
And yeah, I mean, I recognize why. On paper, my skills are really soft. For a long time, I was missing the educational component, and now I have that. But nobody cares because now everybody has a bachelor's degree. And so, yeah, just kind of the teaching thing just feels like, well, that's a job. It'd be a career. It doesn't have to be in a classroom and just, do something, get certified, do something, right?
Well, that sounds great. Sounds like it's really easy for you to do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's going to be hard. And I was a substitute teacher for 6 days. And I hated it.
Yeah.
But it was the subbing part of it that I hated.
I get it.
Once you walk into the room,
yeah,
it's over, right? And I had visions of being like the fun teacher that everybody was going to like, kind of thing. And you can't be that when you're a substitute because they will walk all over you. So I turned into my mother, and I was an absolute drill sergeant. Like, I had those kids sitting down, shut up, face forward. You got work to do, and I'm sorry, I didn't ask you to be coming to this room. And if you've got somewhere else to be, go there.
That's awesome.
Those 7th graders didn't know what hit them. I had 2 little girls. Oh, I have a billion stories. And at only 6 days, I have a billion stories, right? 2 little girls, one raised her hand. She was like, I have to get in the bathroom. And I was like, okay. And she left. And then these 2 other girls raised, and they were like, we have to go to the bathroom too. And I was like, you can go one at a time, and you can go when the other girl comes back with the bathroom pass. And they were like, oh, well, we're allowed to go together in pairs. And I said, no, you're not. And they said, yes, we are. And I said, no, there's one girl's hall pass, and the girl that just went didn't ask for a companion, so I already know that that's not true. And they looked at me and said, are you an attorney?
Did they really? Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, and not in a like, are you an attorney? Fuck you kind of way, but like in a awestruck.
Wow.
I was like, do you really think an attorney would be a substitute teacher?
That's hilarious. You'd make a great teacher.
God, you kids are stupid.
You'd make a great teacher.
Oh, totally. But the pay was $9 an hour.
That's
$9.75.
really ridiculous. We got to fix that.
And you can't go to the bathroom when you want to.
Yeah, right.
Right. And there's no adult to talk to.
No.
It's just kids all day long. So we picked high school. We'll do English. It'll be fine. And then once I'm done with that and I have like my teaching credential and I have a job, then I can get a job anywhere. Great.
Awesome.
And then it'll be like when I was 30 and I could get a job anywhere. When people used to call me and ask me if I wanted to come work for them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to do today. Yeah, it's sad. But at the same time, am I really complaining?
Yeah, your house there looks pretty nice. I mean, I'm saying. I wouldn't complain either.
I have a full-time job as an accountant. Do you know that joke?
No.
On TikTok? Oh my God. Okay, so immediately, when you're in Arizona, when are you leaving?
Tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay, good. Is this guy still orange?
No, it's yellow.
Okay. It's making the news and it's punching through the Trump
That's
coverage.
good.
So that means it's like really bad.
It's really bad.
Because
It's the whole state's on fire. It's really bad. It's like I'm going to be driving down I-5 and I've got to check and make sure there aren't any fires that are blocking the road anywhere along I-5 because there are fires all up and down the state.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And I want to move back.
Well,
so even the fires are fine.
I'm not leaving. I'm going to Arizona, but I'm not moving away.
There you go.
I'll leave when it gets bad, but I'll come back when it's improved.
When it gets good.
Yeah.
Yeah, told me that a lot of the stores, and like, I think he said 50% of the stores had gone out of business.
I don't know.
In San Francisco?
Something like that. It seems like it. Like I drive down Geary Street where all the Russian and Chinese and all the different ethnicities have their shops, and they're all closed and boarded up, and it's really sad. So it's really the point where if I drive by a store that's not closed, I'm surprised.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen after this is all over. I mean, but it's not going to be over quickly. So it's going to get worse unless the government does something about it, which they don't seem to be inclined to do at the moment.
No, it's going to take a Biden presidency and a Democratic Senate.
Yeah.
And let's see if our overlords will allow that to happen. Yeah. I mean, right now it's fine here.
Yeah.
I could go out anywhere, and I wouldn't have to wear a mask.
Wow.
I mean, Trader Joe's won't let you in without a mask, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of grocery stores won't. But restaurants,
Really?
the bar across the street from us that just opened, oh my God, they had 300 people there last night. Easily. The music was boom, boom.
Wow.
And it's new, it's just opened, right? So this is all new.
I was really surprised that a bar was opening because our bars here can't even can't even open. So.
Oh, it's totally. Yeah, amazing. People without masks. Well, it's normal life.
So you're in a hotspot then, right? You got a lot of COVID. Yeah. We're doing pretty good.
Oh,
here.
Speaking of, I got a.
Go ahead.
You're so lucky. I got a text from who has been. She took a leave of absence from hospital work because of COVID, right? Yeah. She has a heart issue, and so she sent me a text last night. Her brother-in-law her son-in-law was exposed to COVID, and they saw him on Saturday.
Oh no!
And now she has to go get tested. Yeah, and he's sick.
Oh no!
Yeah.
She's okay.
Yeah, me too. It would really suck if she died.
Yeah.
She's the only person. Well, it would suck for her too.
Yeah, totally.
It's so selfish. It would suck for me if Michelle died.
It would suck for everyone.
But she and are the only people on the planet who still call me Ted.
Oh yeah?
And it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I even like it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it freaks out. He does not like it.
Oh, you were going to tell me about this Instagram thing or TikTok or accountant.
TikTok. Thing. Yes, TikTok. So TikTok is a lot like the YouTube of Twitter.
Yeah, I know what TikTok
Twitter
is.
for YouTube. So, okay, cool. I did not. So I assume everyone else doesn't. Right? Even though there's like 1 billion people on the platform, and so there's this like little song that goes, "I'm an accountant. I'm an accountant. Nobody asks you what you do when you tell them you're an accountant. What do you do? I'm an accountant. Where do you work? At a place where accountants work." That's the song. So sex workers have started using that song, right? Explaining, this is what I say when people ask me what I do. And it's very funny. Yeah, and I can do TikTok. I could do 2 hours of TikTok. No problem. It will pull you in. Do not download it.
I haven't started
until you get to Arizona.
I do Twitter.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah,
Twitter's gotten bad lately, but I've limited my whatever so that I only see like certain things, and I don't see I've blocked out like every reference to Trump and presidency and all that kind of stuff, because I mean I get it anyway, like it sneaks in somehow, but so I always know what's going on, but I don't have to see all of it, so it helps.
I might do that because right now my Twitter is just politics.
Yeah.
And my fault because it's also what I follow, right? Because it has turned into entertainment. In the 80s, I didn't give a flying fig about politics when I should have, right? Let's make decisions that affect gay people. I don't care. Live and learn. All right, honey. Well, I will let you go because I know you only had 2 hours booked this morning, and you have a full-time job.
I gotta go to work, and I gotta walk the dog. I'm an accountant. I'll check that TikTok out. So, all right, this was fun. We'll have to do it again next week.
Okay,
if
cool.
That works for you.
You let me know. Fridays are good. Saturdays are good. Sundays are good. All day long. Monday through Thursday, I'm doing English online with Spanish kids. So those time slots are a little sketchy, hit and miss. Okay. But Friday through the weekend, always good.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Okay, my love. Have a great, safe drive.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure I'll talk to you before then on text or whatever. But this was fun. Thank you so much. And
this was super fun.
I'm going to say goodbye now. Goodbye now.
Okay. Goodbye now.
Thank you for listening to Apologies Accepted, the podcast.
You can find links to the articles and the sources in the show notes.
To submit an apology or find out more, visit us at apologiesaccepted.net, where you can also find our merchandise.
We're on Twitter at Apologies Accepted.
And on Instagram at apologies.accepted.
You can support our important work at Patreon.com/Apologies Accepted.
And fuck Facebook.
Bye.
Bye.